even the rivers have got their own potential. So if you are going to water that we can there are many things we can do when we look at it from the shipping. The high end of it is oil resources. Right? We don't in Kenya we don't have much, but it's a potential that we can do. But that is the high end and the long term part. The short term part is, of course, there are people who are doing it.
fit for that job?
Yes. There are quite a number of training institutions that have been started that will help one to become for example, a seafarer. When Sharon was reading part of my CV or bio,
yes,
she talked about the Industry Advisory Board, which I chair at the Kenya Coast National Polytechnic. That's a project funded by the World Bank and the government of Kenya. And I chair the Industry Advisory Board, which is the industry itself, as it says. Most of the major ship owners, call them Maersk, MSC, are part of the members of that board, and even the shipbuilding industry in Mombasa. What we come to do is to help the Polytechnic to develop industry-focused courses. And all those short-term courses, they could be 3 months, 6 months. One trains to be, for example, a seafarer. And then after that, they go and get the STCW. That's a standard. It's a certificate needed for one to be able now to go to sea. And that can be gotten at the Bandari Maritime Institute, BMI. But there are many organizations, many colleges that are training. I know that JKUAT, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, they are training marine engineers. And I know Technical University of Mombasa, they are also training. But coming back to Kenya Coast National Polytechnic, this college and maritime institution we are building in south of Mombasa in Kwale, it's going to be an academy of excellence, the only one around in terms of how the equipment and the standards of training that is being put in there. Of course, with the support of the World Bank, and therefore it will be training and people can go in. But even here in Nairobi, Sharon and Frank, even here in Nairobi, you can train. There are institutions. I talked about Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. And even I know somewhere in central Kenya, on the lakes in Lake Victoria, there are maritime institutions that are training today. Therefore, what if we lift Kenya to be a maritime resource or maritime labor source, we can match the likes of Philippines, India, Ukraine, of course. Ukraine is a little bit of a problem now because of the war. And these gaps keep appearing, which tend to be opportunities for Kenya.
Right.
So the training is there.
Right. So what you're saying is that there are so many opportunities out there. We just need to explore the opportunities that there are.
We really need to, and we really need to work together. And even what you're doing right now is sensitizing the young person in Kenya today, and even the guardian and the parent, that there are new opportunities, and you can look into them even as you look at your career guidance. When you're talking about lawyers, when you're talking about architects, when you're talking about doctors, when you're talking about teachers, when you're talking about all that, you can also add, when you're talking about accountants, auditors, you can also add onto the list the blue economy.
Right.
And it's very wide in scope. You can be an engineer working in the blue economy. You can be a teacher working in the blue economy. You can be anything, a doctor working in the blue economy space. So they all are interplaying, and it's supporting a lot of the economy of the land. Yeah.
All right. Now talking about these available opportunities in blue economy, how can now Kenyans tap into the export and import business?
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Imports and exports. Let's look at what is imports. And I know many of us know.
Yes.
But when I look around here in studio, I can see almost everything here. There is what has been manufactured locally, which is a very good thing. And we want to encourage local manufacturing. But also, there is a lot I see which is important. The computers I see here, the microphones we are using, the seats that we are seated on, the table that this magnificent table that we have all the equipment, and the cameras as well. All these are imported things. You came here this morning, you used a means of transport. That is an imported. We are not yet manufacturing. And therefore imports plays a big role in the affluence and the status of a country in terms of being able to enjoy some level of standards of living. So it's a good thing. Even when you look at imports sometimes, and I want to jump onto what imports and exports can do. But before I go there,
Yes.
let me go to what we see as imports.
Okay.
I've talked about things like cars, the steel that is constructing these houses and buildings and bridges and our airports and almost anything. Most of it is imported.
Right.
So that's one of the importance of having to be able connected. And we have a very good port and a very good, moderately good, I would say, logistics system. We are still working heavily on it. That's why I'm in the conference on Global Logistics Conference now, which I mentioned to you earlier on before we came on air, that we are looking at how do we make our logistics much more efficient in the country and for the Northern Corridor. But there are other things that we import. Fertilizer, for example, to feed us. That's input for food. Fuel, even wheat that we now eat bread in the morning.
Yeah.
Cooking oil. But imports it helps us to improve our quality of life. But it can also be used in a different way to spur exports. In the countries of, if you look at Japan, and let me say the two biggest, the two of the three biggest economies in the world. The first is the US. The second one now is China. China overtook Japan.
Yeah.
And Japan is number 3. Japan is built on imports and exports. They barely have almost nothing. But they take in big ships. They import, for example, just to take one commodity. They import iron ore from South Africa, from Brazil, from Australia, and they import coal as well from the same kind of countries. Then they smelt that iron ore, that is imports.
And export.
And then they do cars for everybody and for the world.
Yeah.
And they don't do it only in small way. They do on economies of scale.
Yes.
So that they produce for the world. Those jobs are in Japan. They create jobs in Japan. So imports can be used that way. And coming to exports, we export many things. Tea, coffee. I know there are very hardworking women and chamas that export handicrafts, things which are unique to Kenya, and even small items like consolidated things like even let's say handicrafts. You are a person that is in Nairobi, you are selling handicrafts, or you can source them and be able to export them. As small as even a 1 cubic meter or 1 ton, you can actually export through what we call consolidation. So you don't have to fill a whole ship or a full container to become an exporter.
Okay.
Exports is very good. While imports kind of drains our foreign reserves, like let's say dollars, because you have to go into the market to buy dollars so that you can send them abroad to import. Exports does the other way. It's a reverse. Exports is we are strengthening our currency. You know, now when we started the company in the year 2001, I think the exchange rate to the dollar was about 65 shillings to the dollar. Look where we are now.
Right.
Yeah.
One way of addressing that is what I talked about. These seafarers are export. It's like just the diaspora, what the diaspora is doing. They are sending money in foreign currency into Kenya, dollars into Kenya, and therefore they are helping us to cushion. If we didn't have a big diaspora inflows, actually this exchange rate would have been in a very bad state.
So what you're saying that we need to maximize on exports.
Exactly. Now, when we do that, we are also cushioning our dollar, our Kenya shilling from the losses that we are receiving. Now, to be able to buy anything from out of the country, we are having to pay more shillings, and that's our local currency. We're having to give out more shillings from our pockets to buy an item that we used to buy at 65 shillings. Now we have to buy it at 160 or thereabout.
Right.
So export is very important.
So how does one get into this business of exporting? For example, we need to export, right?
Yes.
So how do we go about it? Where do we start?
Where do we start?
Yeah.
First of all, let me talk about the market.
All right.
Thank you, Sharon. Let me talk about the market. Previously, we had, of course, the whole world to us to export, right? But more recently, we have the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is supposed to be African manufacturing for Africa, Africa consuming African products. And we are seeing some interest growing. If you look at the trade between Kenya and Tanzania, Kenya and Uganda, it's improved tremendously. In the past, and as a norm, most of the countries, you see sea transport accounts for, that's exportation, international trade, goes by sea about 80 to 90%. But now we are seeing that dropping because we are trading more with Uganda. Uganda is buying more from us, and we are buying more from Uganda, and vice versa. But now that the market has come more closer to us, you don't have to take a flight to go to China. And of course, it's okay, because if that is where the market is, one can take a flight. Or we have the internet, where one is able to go into the internet and see. In my farm, I have some bamboo trees I planted some time ago. I just discovered that that is money. I probably can export this to China.
Yeah.
Or to other places, if the market is not here locally.
Yeah.
So there are many things that we can export. Just looking around us and seeing what is our competitive advantage. What can we produce, or what is it that we are producing that we can export? And when we look around us, we will find that there is still something. But coming back to African Continental Free Trade, this is a new market. Africa will be trading again with Africa. And therefore, when I'm looking at what is it that Tanzania needs, I can get it from here. I can do it by truck, and a smaller truck, or a bigger truck, and I can do it by courier or parcel. And so it's a matter of looking at what do we. I come from a background of the shipping and the logistics part, so I want to leave the part of the manufacturing part and the real production to the real experts in that area.
Yeah.
But what we are saying is, from a logistics point of view, we have the capacity and the capability, either through road, rail, or air, as a country,
Yes.
to leverage this country to do more exports. And we are asking everybody who can, and these are opportunities that are opening up, especially the ones that are for the African Continental Free Trade.
Right.
Yes.
What I hear you saying is that we have to scout for the opportunities,
We really do.
Because many times we feel like we just sit and wait for the jobs to come,
Yes.
for the opportunities to come. But what I hear you say is that we have to scout.
We have to go out there.
A lot of research goes into it, yeah?
Absolutely. And even maybe, I know our academia has been very, very vibrant in the years. I mean, in Kenya, look at, I heard somebody say that if you take a stone and throw in the streets, it will land on a graduate.
So sad.
So, and it's true, we are very educated. And that's why I'm saying, we, in terms of taking Kenyans for jobs out there, and we are not saying we are brain draining our country. No, we are saying that we have excess people that we need to find good jobs for them, because our economy, our young people are coming into the job market, and they need jobs, and they can contribute massively to our economy and to the welfare of their families.
All right.
Yes.
Just hold it. Mr. Sylvester, let's take the business news. We'll be back in a few.
The Business Line. It's just business.
Let's get down to business. Good morning. I am Kennedy Kimani. KCB Group has posted a 30.7 billion shillings net profit. The bank's profit after tax grew by 200 million shillings in the 9 months to September this year compared to a similar period.
These
All right, I
Nearly-
got it.
Oh, yeah.
I got it. Yes. Good morning, wonderful people. Kindly ask, despite people going for the cruise ship trainings, interviews, etc., the embassy, the U.S. embassy, looks for a reason to deny us visa. Maybe you can weigh in on that, Mr. Sylvester. There's another one right here who says, disappearing on me, Frank. Where does it? Where is it? This one here. Do we have a blue economy master plan in Kenya? And if it exists, what are the key pillars in it? This is Charles Kiinde. All right, so maybe we can tackle those questions and then we'll be getting more as we proceed on. But just a few more comments. Good to have you this morning. This is glad to see Mr. Chairman SK from Sita Mombasa. God bless you. This is Pastor Jerry Mwaura. Wonderful. I thank God for my chairman, Ludolph Kiriga. May God bless you. May God bless you as well. We see you, Mwangi Mirobi. Thank you for joining us, Irene Wamboi. Thank you for joining the conversation. Well done, sir. This is Will Kaha and George Mwetich. Good morning. Thank you for joining us as well. Nelly, you asked a question on blue business and what it means, blue economy. We had tackled that. So maybe after the live ends, you can go back kidogo and watch for more details.
Yes.
Or maybe you can help us answer some of these questions. Sylvester.
Yeah, thank you. And I must commend Mombasa. Mombasa flooded the studio today.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. And I think almost everyone, because this is a matter that is touching not only Mombasa, but also all of us. And there's somebody who wrote, I need to remember in my economics classes, there's somebody who wrote and said, in the wealth of nations, every country needs to look at what are they good at, and then they produce massively and export it and make wealth. And the first question I want to take is on the U.S. Embassy. Obviously, I can't say much.
Yeah, you can't speak on their behalf. Right.
Although we know that being a young industry of the cruise ship jobs, it's going to be facing some teething issues, and those are one of them. But I know that the Blue Economy Ambassador and the Maritime Ministry, they are working hard to resolve those issues so that Kenyans can get out there and get into jobs. And so far, I have not received, and I say it once again, some of these ship owners who are employing these people are some of my members at Kenya Ships Agents Association. And I have not had any negative report about Kenyans who have been employed and gone out there and they brought a bad name for the country, because that can be a killer of our good name and as an employment source. But it's good to thank the young Kenyans who are out there and being our ambassadors.
Yeah.
So by them doing a good job, also people like the US will also relax their regulations and rules on Kenya. Yes, there was another question.
The blueprint.
Yeah, the blueprint. Yes, thank you. Yes, that was from Charles. Yeah, the blueprint. I know that currently the Blue Economy Ministry is working hard to get us a blueprint. They are in a lot of discussions, even on maritime transport policy for Kenya, to integrate sea, air, land pipeline, to make sure that they all speak one thing, not as silos. And also the Blue Economy Blueprint Master Plan is coming up also as well. What are the pillars? The pillars are many, because it's a wide area, as I said. Many times when you talk about let me say maritime sector, which is a part of the blue economy, many people think about the port. The port, can I shock you, is it's just a small part of what we can do. And there's so much discussion about the port, and the port does a crucial role, of course. But what we can benefit out of the blue economy is far much more. We are talking about also checking and looking and exploring if we have any minerals in the sea. That's a blue economy part. So there are countries like Norway. I've been to Norway a couple of times on field study when I was a student at WMU. And you find that a lot of Norway's economy is on the sea. Yes, of course, granted, they have a bigger coastline than we do, but they are fishing today. If you go to the sea, to any of the 5-star hotels, you ask for, I would like to eat a salmon. It will be imported most likely from Norway. So there are a lot of things that we can do in terms of harvesting, but also farming or developing.
Right.
We've talked about explorations. There could be very heavy and nice and good and valuable minerals in the sea, as well as things like oil, gas. Tanzania, they are drilling gas now. And in fact, they are almost beginning to think about supplying the whole of East Africa with that gas. It's offshore at Songo Songo.
and the southern part of Tanzania, where we also have, I didn't mention that we have offices all over East Africa. And one of the offices we have is in Mtwara, where we serve the offshore facilities of the oil rigs in going into the oil areas inside the sea from Mtwara port.
All right. Thank you, Sylvester. I want to cut you short because our time is pretty much well spent. But quickly, if we can answer this one and then you give us your final remarks.
Yes.
If one has done cabin crew training, is it a must for them to go to a maritime college? That's a question from one of our listeners.
Okay. To go to sea, everybody needs an STCW certificate.
Okay.
It's an international. By the way, shipping is very regulated. It's regulated by the International Maritime Organization. So for anybody to go on board, and even the way you operate the ship, the way you design a ship, the way you build the ship, the way you operate and run the ship, every aspect of the ship is very regulated.
All right.
And not local regulation. Even if you are America or the UK with all the expertise in naval architecture, you will not be able to do that because it will not be acceptable internationally.
All right.
So there is the International Maritime Organization, and the requirement for seafarers, for you to be a maritime seafarer, you must go through the standards of training on watchkeeping on board ships, STCW, and that you can get it in Bandari Maritime Academy.
All right.
And it's
thank you.
It's for 1 week or so, actually.
All right. It's a short course.
Very short course.
All right.
Yeah.
Your last word in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Coming from the logistics and shipping sector, I want to say that we have a great opportunity as Kenyans, and having the sea next to us, it's not a lot of mileage for us in terms of logistics to get to Mombasa or to get into the airport in JKIA, which is international. So we can do much more in terms of exports. Can I shock you? In terms of imports, all the containers that come into Mombasa, 3/4 of them go empty because there's no exports.
There's nothing to export.
And therefore, our imports are more expensive because ships have to cost twice.
Coming in and going
for that import.
Thank you.
If we had more exports,
yes,
even our imports would be cheaper.
Oh, I see.
That's a nice place to leave it at.
Thank
you so much, Chairman Sylvester.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. Appreciate your
God
time.
Bless you. I think if I can add one more.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
We will probably another time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope FM. Listen and live. It's now 9 o'clock with KCB.